Hi guys, I'm back. So a few days ago you saw me do the live unboxing of this Insta 360 Evo and I was very excited to get it out and I talked you through the packaging and the appearance of the product. But I've now had it for a few days, just over the bank holiday, and I've had the opportunity to try it out. And I've tried it in a number of different locations. I've tried it indoors, I've tried it in good light, I've tried it in less optimal lighting conditions. I've tried it outside, I've tried it where there's movement, I've tried it things that are quite stationary, I've tried close-up shots, more landscape shots which are a bit further back. A wide variety. It's been really exciting to test out the capabilities of this really exciting and groundbreaking product. And I have to say that so far it's been a fantastic experience. I've been really impressed with this camera. I have to confess that although it's capable of doing both 360 and 180 3D, it's largely stayed in this format. I've largely used it for 3D because it's much more of a new experience for me. As you know, with my Yi 360, I've been doing 360 filming on this for some time. This camera has really opened up a whole range of new possibilities creatively, and I'd like to tell you about some of those. So, firstly, I'll talk about perhaps the activity that I've undertaken least on this, that of 360, and it's been really fantastic to film video in 5.7K as opposed to having to create footage that was a collection, a slideshow if you like, of 360 still photos. To be able to film video in 5.7K has been brilliant, and it's been really effortless. So it's just been a case of point and shoot, and then Insta's Insta Studio, I think they call it, their software, then does the job of stitching it all together. Now, I have heard complaints about the quality of stitching on this when it's in its 360 mode, when it is in its cube shape, and I haven't really tested that, so I'm not really in a great position to comment on that just yet. The little that I have done in this mode, when it looks like this, has been really, it's been scenery as opposed to close-up footage, and I've tended to use it not on this little stick but on a much larger selfie stick, monopod, whatever you want to call it, usually far more extended than that. So I haven't really noticed any major issues. Normally what I do is I position the camera like this so that front is very much the front and the rear is the rear. So really the stitching issues would be anything on the side, and that's tended not to be the focus of my footage. It's tended to be to me on the one side and then the scenery on the other side. So I haven't really noticed an issue as of yet, but it seems to have been very good quality. Colours seem to have been really great. On my Yi, the colours were never good. It was always very sharp, but the colours were always very lacking, very anemic, and so I always needed to change them in post-production. So far, I haven't really done any post-production with footage from this camera, and I found that the colour from the footage that I upload directly has been really good, really accurate, really great, particularly where there is a good source of lighting. So I mentioned before that I'd done some filming indoors. I chose a supermarket which was really well lit, and the footage looked really good, colours looked really sharp. Outdoors, the weather hasn't been very good, and the outdoor footage has therefore been in rather overcast conditions, but it seemed pretty good. Probably I might want to do some post-production colour onto it to make it a little bit more pleasing to the eye, but not bad. The other cool feature on 360 that I have discovered is the ability to use Insta's brilliant software to turn 360-degree footage into normal flat footage, and the ability to really seamlessly change the camera angle, or to mimic the change of the camera angle. Of course, it's always filming like this, but it's filming in the full 360-degree domain. But you're able to choose your area of focus, and that's brilliant. And the transitions between changes of direction are really seamless, really superb. Very impressed with that, and the ability also to go to little planet modes. They look really impressive, and I will upload a demonstration video that I did in a car. Really boring footage, but by using those cool features, actually look pretty cool. So that's 360. Now, in terms of the 360, I think the main thing will be what will the stitching quality be like. We can see it is wide. It is certainly wider, I would say, than this. And the Yi was not by any means a thin camera. I would say it is definitely quite a bit wide. Goodness me! Actually, when you put it next to each other, you can see just how much wider it is. And this is not a thin camera by any stretch of the imagination. I'd say it's easily 1.5 times the thickness of this, I would say. So it's got its work cut out for it in making the stitching between the two seamless. And it's probably expecting a bit too much for it to be seamless. But as I'm sure many of the owners of this will feel, the reason you buy this camera is not because you want just a 360 camera. If you wanted that, you'd go and buy the very highly regarded class leader, the Insta360 1X. You buy this camera because you want the 3D mode. So what I'm going to do is transition it back into the 3D 180 mode and tell you about my experience with that. Now, in order to do that, what we have to do is we press this button, which unlocks it, and then what we have to do is move across this latch. Now, I have found that this can be quite stiff. There we go. So starting to move it, and then it will unlatch, as you can see. And I'll just turn it around for the full movement. So here we go. As it comes, and then it goes level like that. Now, I want to secure it again. So in order to do that, I get the latch here, and I slide across, you see, and then you go across until you hear it click. Click. Now, in terms of the security, sometimes I have found that although you do this, it will unlock itself. So it's really important that you hear the click. But once it's clicked into place, it seems pretty good. And actually, the camera does seem fairly comfortable in this format. I think Insta knew that people who had this, although they had the option of both 360 and 3D, and of course those formats, which is preferable, will depend upon the filming circumstances that you're in, that most people were really buying this to enjoy the ability to film stereoscopically, to be able to film 180, 3D virtual reality. And if you look at the case, I think it's instructive. You can't actually fit it in when it's in 360 mode, when it's in its cube shape. It won't physically go in the case. So I think that gives away, that Insta knew that people were going to perhaps prefer the 3D 180 mode. That's how it fits in. If you look, it just doesn't have the width to go in as a cube. But that's okay, because I think when you get this camera, you will feel the same way that I do, that actually it's the 3D that is really cool. And I think that's going to, 180 VR I think is only going to get more and more traction as time goes on. Now, the one thing I've found is that it's a bit awkward to obviously to put away like that. It's quite an unusual shape. It's an L shape. What I used to do with this is I'd sometimes leave the miniature tripod in at all times so that I could just put it in the case and then pull it out of the case and it was ready to go. With this, it's just not practical because for a start that won't go on. because it would be obstructed by this here. So you have to remove it. So this is how you're going to transport it, not as a cube, but like this. And when you've got it like this, it does fit in rather nicely into this very high quality feeling pouch. So it goes in there quite nicely, and it's actually really compact. It feels, I mean, it's smaller, it's thicker than a phone, obviously, but I would say the overall feeling is it's smaller than a phone because it's not as tall, it's not as wide, and it really fits in your pocket quite nicely. If you've got a jacket, it slides in really easily. So that's really good. But then when you get it out, there is the temptation, and I have done this for a number of shots, particularly if you want to be subtle, to leave it like this and not to put in the tripod or the little selfie stick, I suppose you could call it. It's quite tempting sometimes to leave it like this, and if you're somewhere where you don't want to be too conspicuous, you can feel a little bit like you're drawing attention if you're walking around with something that looks like that. It will just catch the eye, you don't blend in. I mean, it's bad enough that it has two lenses that people are going to look twice, but if it looks like that, there are certain places where that's fine, but there are certain places where you might want to be a little bit more discreet. And I've certainly had that when I've chosen to film inside shops, for example. I've steered away from installing that, and sometimes I've just got it out like this. And it feels like an old-fashioned point-and-click camera. It feels quite good, actually, and the shape is quite good for that. Whereas I know, for example, the Views camera, you'd hold like that, wouldn't you? This actually is quite supple, and there's no real reason why you can't do this. You do have to be careful where you put your fingers because of the range of view on this. If it's sort of, there, it's overlapping, then it will show up on your footage. But if you hide it behind, then it doesn't really cause a problem. And using your hands actually can be quite precise to position. It can be quite nice and easy. Good for stability too, because when you're holding like that, you've got a fairly intuitive view about whether your camera is level. And in order to turn it on, you just press that circular button there. In order to start and stop video, you just press it there. So it feels very much like a camera. The button is even camera shaped, and the shape of the device, as I've said before, very much like a camera. And I think that does make it subtle. It does make it quite easy to use in everyday circumstances. So I found I've done that. However, it is quite small, and sometimes it's just not convenient, is it, to have two hands together. And so there is always the fear about dropping it. And that is a bit of a palaver with it. That you have to get it out of there, then you have to get this, then you have to screw every time you want to put it together. So I just screw it into the bottom, like so. That really is probably the most sensible way to film it. But also I found that the tripod it makes for some really good possibilities. If you want to film closer to the object, then you can obviously use this in order to do that.